When we look at someone who disagrees with us, someone who generates contempt in us, disagreement, disgust, anger, frustration, terror, jealousy, and all the other ugly companions of those emotions, especially in adults, mature, so-called mature people, people in our lives, friends, family, neighbors, strangers. What the mind typically does almost every single time is it puts them in a box of rigidity. It crystallizes them. We concretize the person, their behavior, and put them in that fixed, rigid, crystallized, unchanging, you have always been in this way, you have always been like this label, and you will never change. End quote. We take the person as a substantial being. We take the person in front of us as somebody that, or something rather, that is the exact opposite of what we stand for, the exact opposite of what we believe in to be noble, holy, kind, generous, lovely, beautiful, and all the rest of that. It's so easy to falter. It's so easy to presume. It's so easy to just convince ourselves in those heated moments when things are not going as we like, which Lord Buddha calls it beautifully with one word, dukkha, that state of suffering. Because when you are that hot, when you are that angry, when you are that jealous, upset, frustrated, fuming with rage, resentment, vengefulness, just being upset by the presence of this person, this being, to even take a moment and ponder the possibility or the fact, in this case, of that person who's in front of us, the object of our anger, of our rage, resentment, etc., was one day in the past not so bad of a person. They even used to play with colorful toys. They used to have a cute voice. They used to giggle. They used to run when they saw their loved ones, or when they saw Santa Claus. Or they used to cuddle with a pet dog, or they used to run barefoot with their tiny little, cute little feet. They were cute. If you were there and saw them, you probably might have gone, "Aw, can I hug him? Can I hug her?" And now, fast forward 30 years, 25 years, 40, 50, 60, 80, whatever years, all that is forgotten. Why? Because the power of the emotion is so great. It makes us believe in atta. Atta is what you can translate as, it's a Pali word, as this substantial selfhood this unchanging personality within the individual, what many people call soul, the thing that moves from life to life, many people believe. Of course, in Buddhism, there's no such thing. Lord Buddha would never teach such a thing. Because things are changing. So when I am getting upset and angry at you, resentful, contemptuous towards you, that means I have stopped considering you to be changing, considering you to be someone who was that little child, someone who had to have his diapers changed, someone who had insomnia and they would cry in the middle of the night, and 5, 6 times they had to wake their parents up to come and tuck them back to sleep. Someone who could only eat a mother's milk, nothing else, no solid food yet. Someone who didn't have any teeth. Someone who, if you had approached them with your pinky, your finger, your pinky finger, and you reached over to them, they would grab hold of it with their whole hand and grab it with their fist and not letting go because their hands were so small. Their skin would smell so lovely, so fresh. They would smile, they would laugh, they would giggle. If you tickled them, they would giggle and they would laugh. They were babies. But what happened? Where did they go wrong? Where did humanity, where did the population go wrong? It's not that they started taking on qualities from the world, which is partly true, they did, but more often than not, what people do, what we as human beings do, is we stop challenging ourselves. We stop saying these very important words before making a conclusion about something or someone. We stop saying to ourselves, let me see. Let me see. Let me first check it out. Let me not reach conclusions so fast. Let me first check to see if it is true or not. To question even our own motives. This also brings us to the sense of fear inside of us. Whenever you're about to make a decision, there's fear. Why fear? Because of uncertainty. Whenever we're afraid, well, first of all, why are we afraid? We're afraid of uncertainty, which brings up a sense of panic, which brings a sense of fear, which again feeds into the panic. But why? Because you don't have the ability to control the situation, which means to you, you don't have the ability to control the outcome of the situation, which is another reason why we're manifesting with rage and anger and frustration and yelling and screaming, and emotions are running wild. And I'm looking at you as this huge boulder of rigidity, unchangeability. You were born like this boulder. That's how I feel towards you. That's what my emotions are telling me, which, by the way, means there is no thinking, there's no reasoning, there's no rational thinking. There's no patience, basically. So I know I'm mentioning several things, but they're all connected, because the moment you stop saying to yourself, let me see, that means you already stopped wanting to make the decision, to try something, to do something, to do something. Today in the world that we live, somebody was mentioning the other day that, I came across, he was being interviewed and he said, do you know that there are over 7 million able-bodied, meaning people who can work and do things with their lives, able-bodied men, he was just talking about men, 7 million of them, who have for the last 3 years been choosing to stay at home rather than going outside of their house, even their house, to go outside to their backyard, front yard, go into the community, do something. They have elected not to. These are able-bodied. There's nothing wrong with them. They don't have any physical disorders, no mental disorders, no emotional disorders, nothing. There's nothing wrong with them as such. Able-bodied. So they could do work. They could go learn a new trade, a new profession, new skills. They can learn how to cultivate or plant things at least. They're not doing any of it. So they're staying at home. Because the governments have been providing them with paychecks, this and that, and they're becoming more sedentary day by day. But then when they were asked, so there was a survey, and the survey was by their own, so they their own, I guess, verbal communication. So they themselves were reporting, so it's self-report type of a survey. They had self-reported that on average, they've been wasting over 2,000 hours. They were spending 2,000 hours of screen time. Screen time. That could be probably doing PlayStation and video games, this and that might also, but I think that would be far greater if those would be included. But when screen time, I think it was just about, the phone primarily, social media and things like that. Why do I say this? Because when you are basically wasting your life like that, and that's what it is basically, you're wasting your life when you're not activating your body because you're not saying something, or rather doing something, you're not deciding. Decision is number one. You have to decide to get out of bed. You have to decide on which side of the bed you're going to get out of. Come out of your bed from. Which foot you're going to bring and rest upon the ground. How long you're going to be in the bathroom. Are you going to fix your bed? Are you going to drink those 2 cups of water? Are you going to leave your house? Are you going to wear those, that shirt, those pants, that dress for a woman? What are you going to do? Are you going to have breakfast here? Are you going to have it outside? Are you not? Are you going to just skip breakfast? All these are basically decisions. Some might laugh at this, that it's crazy, these are not decisions. Decisions are heavy duty. They have to, a lot has to be riding on it. No, we start with baby steps. And so long as we're not making decisions, it's like muscles that atrophy. We lose that ability. So we take, baby steps. So my encouragement is to not stop making decisions, however menial, however small they might seem at the time. And this is the problem. We stop making decisions. And that's where let me see comes in, because that indicates there is a level of curiosity present in the mind, in the heart. There's a level of interest, a desire to find out. So it's not a matter of when the person has become a rigid person and we've just called them fixated, or not fixated, but crystallized, rigid, unchanging, this beast of a boulder standing in front of me that I wish they never existed. They bring up that emotion. The reason why they have become like that is because they have stopped challenging themselves. And one of the easiest ways to challenge yourself is by making new decisions, which takes courage. Courage is also like a muscle. Initially, it's going to feel uncomfortable. Years ago, when I used to train individuals, it would feel like, to them, whenever I would call them to basically, for lack of a better word, to drag them to the gym so we can, do our session. So many times I would have so many people who would say, I'm not feeling like it, this and that. And after a lot of persuasion, when they did show up with the gym bag, I would stop clapping. I would start clapping, I'm sorry. I would start with a big beaming smile and say, congratulations. And they would say, why? I would say, because you came. You made it. You could have gone somewhere else, Especially those who had to drive through traffic to get there. Because it's so easy to just give in, to give up. So that huge lump of obstruction on your path, whether it's your boss, your spouse, somebody who's not budging, somebody who's not adding more flavor and life into your existence, they've stopped trusting, they've stopped taking chances, they've stopped making decisions. So what then I'm encouraging you here is to not stop making decisions, not being curious about, well, why do I feel like just being stagnant, not leaving the house, or not trying something different today, cooking something different today? Instead of just following along, just going on, let's say, doing your thing, going on Twitter or Facebook or on some other social media, your favorite virtual hangout place, try a different route. Take the long way home every once in a while. When I used to drive in Los Angeles, as when I was a layman, years ago, I recall how I would intentionally get lost. Back in those days, we had this huge, thick, big, horizontal, very landscape-sized book. It was called the Thomas Guide. It was a map throughout Los Angeles County. So there was no GPS at the time. And if you were going to go somewhere, you would check that before going there. And it was lovely, beautifully laid out, so you're not going to get lost if you're following it. So after you've done it a few times, at the same place, so you've mapped it out in your head, ever so often I would say, especially when going back and, coming back from work, instead of listening to talk radio or something like as useless as that, which messes you up big time. What I would do was to intentionally put the Thomas Guide or the map aside and open up a new folder, a blank folder in my head, as in take the road less or never, in this case, traveled. So instead of taking 15 minutes or 20 minutes to get back home, I would end up being lost for about 40 minutes. And I would check my heart. I would check what was happening with me. The grip on the steering wheel with both my hands, like, what am I, in the frustrations? Why are these people driving like this? Why am I here? Why am I in this neighborhood? Is it safe? I could have been home right now. I could just be watching TV or reading a book or, oh boy, what is that? Oh, my stomach. Oh yeah, I'm hungry. What am I doing? All of these things are happening which were not supposed to happen. If I had just taken the normal, familiar road. Well, guess what that was? That's a perfect example of making decisions. So whenever we're making decisions, we are stepping into the unknown, which is another way of conquering fear, of conquering our phobia towards uncertainty, towards having everything be under our control, which it will never be. That's why Lord Buddha explains the first characteristic of existence as being anicca, which is impermanence. Nothing will last the way it is right now. That's why I laugh when people say forever. I'm going to love you forever. We're going to be happy together forever. Once we're married, we're going to be together forever. Oh yeah. So it's key for us to be more grounded and to realize how much power we have. That's why it's also called decision-making power by some. And it's a beautiful phrase. The more decisions you make in life, the richer your life will become. The softer your facial muscles will become. The softer your gaze will become. You won't be stuck, so attached and grabbing on to dear life, to your memories. Oh, this is how it was. How come it's not like that? And why is this boulder standing in front of me? And all that commotion, because anger is burning, not the person in front of you, but it is burning the person who's feeling it. Your heart, you. So it's as they say, the ball is in your court, is in your corner. You decide how you want to play it, and you can play it every single minute you're breathing. Really. So long as you have some breath in your lungs, at least one half of a breath, meaning either an exhalation or inhalation. If you can just be joyful in that, during that half a breath, if you can think positively about, well, being appreciative about your life, of the good things that have happened, about your relationships. When in therapy people would come and they would just paint their lives to the in such ways, in such general terms, whether it's individuals or families or especially couples. I've never experienced. I would stop them and say, never? Really? Never? She never loved me. Never? How did you even end up together? There must have been moments. Some moments. So, give yourself a fresh start. Don't be afraid of making decisions. Because life is waiting for you on the other side of the decision. You will discover what it is. But it's much better. It's much better smelling than the, the soggy, the stagnant, and the deplorable air that you're breathing right now in that little cocoon of yours, where you don't want to come out of because of its familiarity, because of its pseudo, fake, quasi sense of security, which it is not. It's absolutely opposite of that. And the more decisions you make, the more fearless you become. Not by reading books, not by watching some movies or documentaries or being, no, it's by you making decisions, you yourself. And by the way, none of those once upon a time clients of mine, when I was a trainer, fitness trainer, none of them, after having come to the gym, huffing and puffing initially, after the session was over, none of them would say or even have an tiniest little expression on their face that they hated it. They would be like little children, jumping up. Some of them would jump and hug me. They were so excited, and their bodies were so excited. They were sweating like crazy. But they were so joyful. It's amazing when I think of it. And that would last hours. They made a decision. And we're always making decisions. What kind of decisions? To stay put, meaning to be stuck. Even that is a decision. But it's a lame decision. It's a lifeless decision. It's a monotonous decision. It makes us perfect automatons, dead. Life is colorful. So, fearlessly, appreciatively, make that decision and step into the unknown.